We'll be discussing about the Linux system and its artifacts. So when we talk about the Linux operating system, it basically is comprising of three components. The kernel is the core part of the Linux and it is responsible for all the major activities of this operating system. The system library is special functions and programs using which applications programs are system utilities access kernel features, and the system utility where the programs are responsible to do specialized or individual tasks. So here we have three components, that is the kernel, the system library, and the system utility. Now we see that the Linux operating system, some basic features are that it is portable, it is open source, multi-users, multiple users can use it, multi-programming, different types of programming things can be done on that. It's using a hierarchical file system, shell, and also it has in good security. So we see over here the architecture of the Linux operating system. We have a hardware, then we have the kernel that we can see that is the first line of defense, and then we have the shell that is present. It is going to create a relationship between the hardware and the applications, compilers, okay, etc. So when we are storing information on a hard disk or any storage device using a Linux operating system, we come across something that we call as the boot block, which is similar to the master boot record that we have in the Windows operating system. So the boot is basically a disk allocation unit, at least 512 bytes, and it contains the bootstrap code, and it has only one boot block that is located on the main hard disk. Then we have the super block, which is indicating the disk geometry that we can say as the partition record that we have in the Windows operating system. And we have showing it shows the available space, the location of the first inode, the free inodes, basically what is free space in the disk, etc. And manages the file system. Multiple copies of the super block are also kept in the Linux operating system. So then we have the inode blocks and the data blocks. So inode blocks are nothing but the first data after the super block. So whatever data is found on the hard disk of a Linux operating system after the super block is called as the inode block, and an inode is assigned to every file allocation unit. And data blocks is basically where all the files are stored, like we have the data area. And then we have, similar to the Windows operating system, we have each sector that is consisting of 512 bytes, and each data block is like a cluster. So cluster like 1024 to 4096 bytes, which is almost the same as that we would see on an FAT, that is a file allocation table, as well as a new technology file system volume that will be present on the uh, you know Windows operating system. So like this, we have the inodes are there, then we have the cluster blocks that are present. So these are some of the artifacts that we find in the artifacts in the Linux operating system: user accounts, then security keys, schedule tasks, system logs, trash, bash history, etc. So looking at each of these artifacts, we will be able to understand what data we need to find depending upon the case. When we find a hard disk that is associated with the crime, and image it and try to extract the information.